So Emily Stein was born in Berkeley, California. She's earned a BA in French and Slavic Studies from Northwestern University, a certificate in French from the Sorbonne. Am I saying that right? Sorbonne? I really don't care. It's French. And two MAs in Russian and English literature from University College London. She currently lives in New York, where she is completing her first mystery novel. And you're going to read a little bit from that tonight. Please welcome Emily Stein.
So I'm going to read from a book that I'm writing now that doesn't have a title. I'm going to read from the ending of the first chapter, which opens in a psychiatric ward, and it follows a young woman named Vera who's been a patient there for several months. She's cut herself off from her former life and refuses to see visitors and leaving letters from friends and family unopened. She's developed a kind of routine there and shows little interest in leaving the hospital. So the section that I'm going to read begins just after she's finished eating breakfast with some of her fellow patients. Not wanting to get up and find something else to do, she let her eyes stray around the room, from the grumpy morning stretching group covertly watching cartoons to the abandoned tables in the cafeteria. Abandoned except for one table with one person. Barely paying attention to it at first, Vera felt a sudden flash in her peripheral thinking. It was someone she didn't recognize in the hospital, but did recognize in general. Actually squinting as she peered and leaned forward, long past caring how literal all of her actions had become in this place, her mind hiccuped in surprise as she realized that, unbelievably, it was someone she knew. She had run into someone she knew in a psychiatric ward. After a minute or so of indecision, she got up and walked over. For the first time in months, she was feeling something approaching engagement, and besides, never in her life had she so indisputably had nothing better to do. Bafflingly, the object of her trajectory seemed not to see Vera walking towards him, though he was to all appearances staring in just that direction. He was a young man of about her own age, with a long, tan face, curiously black eyes, and lionesque blonde hair that looked like it had been cut with a hacksaw. He was currently wrapped in a bright red blanket. Said Vera, coming to stop in front of him and fighting a rising tide of shyness. Hi, I know you, I think. The young man turned a vacantly beatific gaze upwards. His hair was standing up with truly startling rigidity. Vera had the feeling that at one point or another it had been rubbed with the blanket. I think you're onto something, said the apparition. He blatantly evaluated her now with the sure-footedness of someone who has all the time in the world. Suddenly eager to prove herself, Vera said with false uncertainty, It's Ryan, right? He didn't respond, which Vera supposed was some kind of assent, and continued to scan her. Just as she was about to simply tell him her name, he held up a hand triumphantly and cried, I've done it! You're Lola! Well, Vera. Ryan stared ahead blankly for a few seconds before snapping back into cognizance. Oh, Vera! Interesting. I thought it was Lola, because that song just started playing in my head. Song? Whatever you want, you get. Is that accurate? What? I mean, do you really get whatever you want? Vera took a pointed scan of her surroundings. No. Ryan took this in stride and gestured grandly to the chair on the other side of the table, losing his grip on the blanket in the process. Vera sat down as Ryan bent over mechanically and retrieved the edge of the blanket, straightening up and letting a full 10 seconds pass in silence before slowly turning his chair to face that of his companion. Vera cleared her throat and, appreciating only then the beautiful, tasteless absurdity of the question, giving when and where she was asking it, nonetheless heard her voice say politely, So, how are you? Whatever Ryan was thinking, and the possibilities were many, it was clearly along different lines. In response, he merely gave a calm smile, saying, not bad at all. Vera truly could not think of how to respond to this, and so sat in baffled silence, while meanwhile Ryan appeared to forget completely where he was, letting his eyes fall downward to his empty plate. But just as Vera was trying to decide if saying goodbye was actually necessary, or whether she hadn't better just back away, Ryan snapped his head back up and started talking with all the sudden brightness of a toy that has just had its batteries replaced. I got kind of stressed out about school, though, that's true. They tell me it's anxiety, but I say it's just life. Here he turned a twinkling eye on Vera, evidently expecting her to laugh, at the very moment when she was seriously wondering if she would ever laugh again. Life, Ryan cried, giving a terrifying slap to the table. Ah, life. But you were in Chem 200 too, weren't you? You know. I was. I've been trying to explain to them. They've been teaching me breathing techniques. Vera suddenly realized that she'd been holding her breath for the last 15 seconds at least. With a rush of air, she managed to ask, "How long have you been here?" 3 days, they say. Really? I haven't seen you. Yes, I was in a special room until now. Oh, I think I know the one you mean. She absolutely knew the one he meant. In a burst of embarrassed frankness, she added, I drew a little guy on the wall. Ryan gave a thoughtful frown. I didn't see him, I don't think, but I'll admit that my memories of the room aren't the best. He looked around him now with a glowing grin. This is very nice, though, on the outside. I agree, Vera lied. Ryan's increasing strangeness was making her feel as comfortable as if she'd been dealing with someone who'd just been hit over the head and wouldn't remember half of what she said. Like a fine wine, it gets better with age. Yes, I can see why you've stayed for so long. 3 years, I believe? 6 months. Chem 200 was less than a year ago. Ah, but time is relative, you know. It all depends on how quickly you breathe. Vera blinked with as much disorientation as if a gnat had just flown into her eyes. She was starting to wonder not only whether she could carry on a normal conversation anymore, but whether she'd ever be given the chance. They've been playing calming music to me, Ryan revealed. Mozart. It reminded me of high school. Gosh, said Vera, remembering with a jolt that high school had happened. Then I wonder if that's a good idea. Here Ryan didn't throw so much as recline his head backwards to give a laugh that was probably meant to sound airy, but which had all the brittle, calculating rhythm of a typewriter simply tapping out the adjective. No, they were pleasant memories, in fact. Some people say that the best years of your life are in high school. Have you heard that? Yes, I have. I think they might have been right, don't you? Vera opened her mouth to say something along the lines of, shoot me if they were, but then caught a glimpse of Aaron shuffling past, clutching his shower curtain, and no longer knew what to say. Ryan seemed either to accept or ignore this as Vera slowly turned her head to watch Aaron's progress. They keep playing that symphony Mr. Halliday made us listen to over and over, if you recall. Oh, right, trying to get us to analyze it. That was sad. Oh, how we laughed. Did we? But then what is laughter, really? Ryan raised an eyebrow as a kind of invitation to philosophy, which Vera instantly, desperately wished to avoid. She made an attempt to steer the conversation back into placid, vacuous waters. I wonder how Mr. Halliday's doing these days. Have you seen him lately? My mother has, as she continues to work in the office. That's nice, Vera said, with no idea why she was saying it and if it was nice at all. Maybe his mother hated that job. Maybe she woke up every morning wanting to slit her wrists. Maybe she felt like if one more kid, just one, handed her a phony late note, she would... I guess he's been the same, said Ryan. Well, until Sylvia and everything. Now I guess he's not. Vera, who'd been on the point of zoning out completely, gave a frown. Sylvia Smoot? Obviously, Smoot. What about her? Ryan raised not one but 2 eyebrows this time, in perhaps the greatest surprise of which he was currently capable. You don't know? Know what? Oh, perhaps you wouldn't. Know what? That she's dead? Vera felt her head jerk back an inch or 2 involuntarily, as though the gnat were back, right in her eyes with extra viciousness and vigor. What would you call that? Imaginary gnat, mind gnat, thought gnat. She blinked several times. Wait, she said, shaking her head like a rattle. What did you say? What? I said that she's dead. Now it was Vera's turn to go completely mute. She stared confused into the ether and swallowed for no reason. Dead? She said finally. That's what I keep saying. Or I could say died if you want. She's dead, she died, whichever. But I don't... Why? Why? Or I mean, how? She hanged herself, to be honest. Ryan waited for a reaction of some kind, but none was forthcoming. How unseemly that you're finding out so randomly, and late. Vera was staring at the table now with an odd fixedness, so that when she spoke, it really seemed that it was the table she was addressing. Late? She asked it. How late? Oh, perhaps 2 months or years. It was right before Christmas. Vera wanted to ask indignantly why no one had told her, but soon saw what a deeply flawed question that would be. And you say she killed herself? It's not just me saying it, everyone's saying it, because she did. Vera went silent again, to Ryan's visible annoyance. He was clearly beginning to enjoy being the bearer of such horrific news, and thus to resent Vera's lack of responsiveness. Mr. Halliday found her hanging in the auditorium, he added hopefully. On stage, in fact. Vera didn't answer, still concerned with the table. I suppose you never know with some people, do you? Here Vera wrenched her eyes upward, looking at Ryan with sudden hatred. Yeah, you never know with some people, or you just don't bother to find out. Oh, said Ryan, somewhat taken aback. Did you know her? Yes. Oh, I wouldn't have thought that you would. Okay, well I did. I never saw you together. Well, unless you were in the paparazzi following my every move, maybe you just missed it. Whoa, okay, it seems I hit a nerve. There was another long and increasingly taxing period of silence, or so it seemed to both of them. In reality, a poncho-wearing guitar strummer who came in once a week was sitting cross-legged on the floor in front of the TV, currently singing the Itsy Bitsy Spider. He took requests. Hanged herself? Vera suddenly said, making Ryan jump. That can't be right. Discreetly putting a finger to his wrist to measure his pulse, Ryan said, okay, but it is. Vera shook her head at the table. No, it can't be. I happen to know. I knew her. Things about her. It can't. Ryan breathed slowly outwards and took on a pensive expression. You know, Lola, this might not be what you want to hear, but it seems you may be in denial. I think if you went into that door there, here he helpfully pointed to a door in Ward C, they could possibly be of service. I'm not in denial. I wouldn't be so sure, though we are admittedly on your home turf. You could be in denial about being in denial. In double denial. What? I just happen to know, because I have certain information, that can't be right and there's been a mistake somewhere. But they're sure it was suicide? They said that it was? Yes, my God, yes, they said that it was. How do they know? Holy cats, I don't know. Apparently she was miserable enough, and the police will have their little clues. Well, whatever the clues are, they're wrong. Have it your way, they're wrong. Ryan started shifting in his chair, gathering the folds of his blanket more tightly around him like a mantle, and then stood magnificently up. Well, it's a shame, he proclaimed, that we didn't cross paths sooner. For a moment, Vera managed to glance distractedly at Ryan, now towering above her. Why, are you leaving? Yes, I'm leaving today. Today? That was fast. Yes, I thought so too. But I came in peace and signed all their forms so I can leave when you want, you see. Oh, I see. I don't even mind my being here, but my mother does. She says it's officially starting to freak her out. Vera had no reply to this, as fruitful a topic as it would have seemed to be. Appearing to feel sorry for her, Ryan added, but you can leave whenever you want too, can you not? Vera briefly considered lying and then got angry at herself for it. No, I can't. Oh, you didn't sign the forms? I didn't sign the forms. For the first time since Vera had sat down, Ryan looked genuinely uncomfortable. Well, you know what you're doing, I suppose. No, not really, but it was nice to see you anyhow. Ryan gave a kind of confused shrug and a nod at the same time and took his leave, processing towards Ward A. Vera heard rather than saw him go, her attention back on the table as she tried to get a grip on her thoughts and her breathing, in no particular order. The guitar player, who fruitlessly insisted on the stage name Mr. Strings, had moved on to a new song, usually Vera's favorite. He always seemed to really come into his own when he reached the lines he was singing now. Light that shines in the light of love, hides the darkness from above. In every dark corner that I find, let my little light shine. Vera stood up so suddenly that Mr. Strings flinched. She strode across the cafeteria, past the stretching group, past Sarah, past Kathy, who was gesturing at her. Back in her room, Vera's hand trembled slightly as she opened the drawer to her nightstand and tore open Sylvia's most recent letter, with a feeling like she'd opened a gate, released a dam, and now water was gushing everywhere that she'd never be able to put back. She closed her eyes and the overhead lighting softened, made pink and forgiving by her seashell eyelids. She counted to 9, her favorite number, and started reading the letter she'd meant to read 3 months ago. Dear Vera, I'm sorry to keep writing to you when you haven't even gotten a chance to answer any of my other letters first. I'm sure you must have lots more important things to worry about than me being whiny and paranoid over nothing. If you can come to the dinner, it would be so nice to see you. I don't know if you're allowed, but could I sign you out or something? I think there's something there that you should see, and we could talk things over. I hope you're okay. That's why I keep writing, I guess. It's hard to find someone to talk to who would actually understand, maybe, and I'm a little overwhelmed what with everything that's been going on. Because I know I'm being silly, but to be honest, I'm scared. Your friend, Sylvia.